Hey friends, welcome back to Raising Your Prices Challenge. I am Elena Mutonono. I coach online language teachers and coaches on how they can create a business that is more sustainable, more pleasurable, more fun, and has a greater impact on the people that they're working with. Today, I am going to share with you something that is so important for any person running a business, and that is failure. When I first began teaching online, particularly when I was moving away from one-to-one classes and reaching a wider audience, failure was becoming more and more common for me. And I've tried so many things and I failed at so many things, and it doesn't stop. I keep trying and things may not work, and then I learn from them and move on. But in the beginning, it was something absolutely devastating, something I hated doing. And I was trying to do anything in my power to mitigate that, to decrease the feelings that I had in my heart when it came to failure. And now I realize that I made failure a lot about me. I did not consider failure as something that I could turn into a lesson that would allow me to learn and get better results in the future. Instead, I was trying to play it safe and work on projects that would not require as much risk. As a result, I would not get the reward that I wanted. And so today, after so many years of working through failure and thinking about failure in different ways, I am here to share my process with you. This is something I use with clients, but I also use it myself. We use it in our community as well. Online language teachers that are working towards building a sustainable business, they are going to take risks. And if you're one of them, you're going to take risks, and it's going to be very difficult to move past your failure if you do not have the support system and if you do not have the tools that will allow you to keep moving forward. Because what happens is when you have a failure and you go through the same cycle of feeling really sad, feeling anxious or afraid, or feeling like, okay, next time I can't take as much risk, or maybe this thing didn't work, instead of actually going and trying to figure out what did work, what didn't work, why, what I was thinking when I was putting this program together, etc. Instead of doing that, if you are hitting this funk state where you feel really sorry about yourself, you start doubting, you feel overwhelmed, you go through new resources, you look for your new magic bullet and so forth. There is so much learning in the failure that you may not recognize, that after this video, I hope you can take the lessons that you learned from this and apply them next time you try something and it doesn't work. It is really powerful. So let's go to the page. And I'm going to talk about a very, very specific situation. So when you are reaching out to people and offering them, let's say, a free call, or you're just working on your course and you want people to join the course, but they come back to you and they say no, okay? It is very easy to hit that state where you feel just absolutely powerless and hopeless. And the thing is, when you feel powerless and hopeless and you don't work through those feelings, you're going to numb them, or you're going to stay depressed for a while, and you are not going to move past them. You're not going to take the lessons from this, and you're not going to get to a point where you feel like, wow, I now experience failure, or somebody says no to me. I don't feel as awful as I used to. I don't feel hopeless. I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel disappointed. I feel something else because of what I think, what I choose to think. And as we know, thoughts really affect our feelings. So I will start here with the big letter F. And interestingly, when we went to school, I don't know about you, this was not a good thing. This was just not a good thing. I did not like getting Fs. I barely ever got Fs. So when I got into business and I discovered that Fs are actually good in business because they show to you what is not going to work if you know how to process through failure, which is what we're going to do today. But the time it just felt like it's the end of the world. Maybe you got an F, right? You feel like, big fat failure. Maybe you heard somebody say no. And it can feel devastating if you make it about you, or if you don't know how to move past it. You don't know what this failure is here for. So what I want to do now is take the color that really looks like it's going to explode, red, right? And maybe when somebody says no, when I feel like I failed, I felt most of the time, if something failed, if I ran a launch and nobody signed up, or just one person signed up out of 10 that I wanted to, I felt so ashamed, and therefore I'm using this red color. I just wanted to crawl somewhere and not be found by anybody because I felt like an imposter. But actually, I didn't realize at the time that even having one person who signs up is actually a big win, particularly if you're just starting out. It's a great, great thing. And when somebody used to say no to me, sometimes even today, but less so because I've been working on it, because I recognize this. Okay, when this comes in my body, I feel this emotion. This emotion, when somebody says no to me, I used to feel really sad, and sometimes I used to feel hopeless. I used to feel really heavy. And it was just really overwhelming to hear that. I didn't know what to do with it. But what we're going to do today is discover that even in the process of failure, if you know how to work through it, and I'm going to show you how, if you know how to work through it, failure and the no's that you receive can become fertilizer for your success. Failure can become fertilizer for your success. And instead of getting into a funk, I bring the soul and I reflect on it. I have a process that I do now that allows me to find meaning even in the the worst scenarios of failure. And I've had plenty of those because I've tried so many things in the years. And that also allowed me to work through my insecurity and through my perfectionism, because believe it or not, after you experience a failure or you don't get the results that you want, it's very easy for us to just say, okay, I'm just going to perfect it next time. I'm just going to do everything I can to make sure that it's not going to happen because I don't like the way it feels. And then we perfect. Or, in some cases, in my case, it was I would overwork and pretty much get myself so burnt out that I did not know what to wake up for. Like it was just so much, so overwhelming. So, but it's not so today. And the results that I'm getting and I've gotten out of my work through failure and my process of turning this failure to fertilizer has really allowed me to find new strength and to think new thoughts about this whole process. I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay. So when you fail or you think you fail, right? You run a program, you didn't get the results you wanted, and you feel like that's a failure. There is usually a thought that is there. And the thought may be, I'm not good enough. I can never do this kind of work. People don't appreciate what I do. That used to be a lot for me, which that kind of thought does not really get you anywhere. Somebody says no to you and you're like, well, people just don't appreciate it. And then you get angry, then you get maybe frustrated or depressed, depends on where you are. And instead of continuing to work through this and turning it into fertilizer, you are getting deeper and deeper in your depression. So there are 3 questions that you need to ask when you are going through the funk after something didn't happen. Okay. And these 3 questions are going to help you work through the failure every single time and build your resilience, because this is what you need to move forward. You need to build more resilience. The first one is, what worked? What worked? And the thing is, you may feel like, oh, well, nothing worked. That's also the result of your reactivity. That's your immediate state. Okay, well, that's not true. Is it true that nothing worked? What worked? I put something out there and I had people interested. Or maybe I had 1 or 2 sales instead of 10. What worked? Then you dig deeper into this, right? We're getting into this whole system of, okay, what really worked? We're getting into the soil. What did I think that helped me get the results? What did I think? And how did I feel? This is really important, because next time when you start working on your course, instead of going through the fear of what's going to happen, or worry, or overwhelm, or depression, or, kind of foreboding joy, using Brene Brown's vocabulary, she was saying that sometimes we create these scenarios to kind of guard. Our brain thinks that by creating the scenario that, okay, this is the worst that is going to happen, and we just plan it out, we think it in our heads, and then it happens, we're like, well, I knew that. And it's almost like we try to prepare ourselves, but it doesn't work like that. You can't prepare yourself for something tragic. You can't forebode joy, but what you can do is rob yourself of joy in the present moment, the joy of creation, the joy of discovering, the joy of looking for new ways of doing things that you used to do. So what worked? What did I think when it worked? Did I think it's possible? Did I think, I wonder what's going to happen? And if I thought that it's possible, I felt maybe courageous. If I thought that it was, I wonder what's going to happen, I felt curious, and that created certain results for me. Okay. The second question that you want to ask yourself is, or series of questions, of course, what didn't work? Didn't work. What did not work? What did I think and how did I feel? So what didn't work, for example, is I did not get the results that I wanted. Yes, I did not, my launch did not turn out the way I wanted it to. How did I think about my launch coming in? Maybe I was afraid. Maybe I was too perfectionistic. Maybe I was clingy in my marketing and desperate. And maybe I thought that if I could just keep talking about it and convincing people, maybe I thought that whatever, my message was really overwhelming people. Maybe I thought that I'm getting on people's nerves, right? If I think that I'm getting on people's nerves, I will feel inadequate. And then my marketing is not going to resonate with people because they will respond to my feeling of inadequacy with lack of trust, which is what they need to buy from you. Okay, so you go really deep into this. And it's very important not to beat yourself over it, not to judge yourself, not to over-explain, but just try to be as honest as you can with yourself. And the final question that you want to ask yourself, based on what you've learned right now, next time when you do the same thing, maybe when you reach out to a new client, or maybe you try to sell a program, how do I want, or what do I want to think? And how do I want to feel? So if this worked and this didn't work, I have a choice for the next time. I can choose the thought pattern and the feelings that I had that brought no results and put me into a worse state, right? And then I would numb my feelings by watching Netflix instead of actually saying, well, it didn't work this time, but I wonder if I tweaked my strategy, what would happen? And so instead of using this failure as a fertilizer towards my success and making a choice, this is how I'm going to think, and this is what I'm going to feel about my launch in the future, or about my clients saying no. I can say, oh, I worked so hard. I gave the best to the client, and now they're saying no, they do not like me, and they hate it, and I hate them, and all that. You can choose that. And then you feel sorry for yourself, and then you go binge watch Netflix and hope that it will cure itself. Or you can say, that didn't work. But the thought I want to think is, this person that said no actually create a space for the new one. I wonder who that person is. And then I go out there, and instead of feeling sorry for myself, or instead of overworking to show that I really, really am worth investing money into, I go back to the drawing board, to what worked. What did work is reaching out to people and sitting down with people, for example. And I believe that there is somebody out there that really needs my help. And if I just sit there, I can sit and feel sorry for myself all I want. But is it going to change things? No, it's not going to change things. I can choose then to act differently based on what I think and on what I believe. And then when you go through this process, then what happens is this beautiful, beautiful transformation. When you go through this process, and when you're really honest with yourself, because sometimes it's really hard to be honest. We try to say things that we think will be the right answers, especially if you come from the background of trying to constantly give the right answers and feel good about that. But here, all of a sudden, you will be able to take this failure, take all these no's, take everything that was brought to you through failed launches, through, courses that you thought were going to work. Take that blame, because that's another thing. I used to blame coaches, and I used to blame trainers whose free blueprint I was following, and it didn't work. And I felt like, well, that's their fault. But that's called emotional childhood. But what you want to do, if you want to get different results, is to become emotional adult and say, I'm going to take these no's and this failure, and I'm going to turn it into fertilizer so that something that I truly want comes up. Am I putting all the courage in the work that I do? Because if I'm putting disappointment and overwhelm and perfectionism and fear, anxiety into my future projects, then guess what's going to come up? Well, I hope this lesson was helpful to you. And now with this new framework for thinking about failure and no's, you will have a different set of beliefs and actions that will empower you to move forward, even when you do not see the results yet. It's really important to realize that we can't get the results right away. There has to be work that has to happen in our brain before we get the results that we want, before we sell to our client, before we sell our new course. We need to change the way we think. Otherwise, we will continue working from burnout to burnout or depression to depression. And that doesn't really feel good, and it's not taking you anywhere. If you want to dive deeper into this kind of work, I have free coaching sessions every month, and you can sign up for those. There's an information in the description, and I would love to see you. We can do more doodling, and I can answer your questions you have about your online teaching business. Thank you so much for being here, and have a lovely day.